Welcome to the Office of Early Childhood's webinar, Creating Fun Summer Memories Through Play While Keeping Debt Away. Now passing it over to Diana Reyes, who will give instructions on how to access interpretation.
Hola everyone, buenos días a todos. Mi nombre es Diana Reyes y daré instrucciones sobre cómo acceder a los servicios de traducción para el seminario web. En la parte inferior de la pantalla, haga clic en el globo terráqueo que dice traducción y luego seleccione español o SP. A continuación, puede silenciar el idioma original. Gracias por acompañarnos. Que pasen un buen día. Adiós.
Thank you. And now introducing the Commissioner of the Office of Early Childhood, Beth Bai.
Hi, welcome everybody. We're so glad you're here today for another webinar. I think after this one, there was a break for the summer, so it's a good time in the chat or other ways, letting us know what you have liked and not liked, what we can do better, what you'd like to see next year in terms of webinar titles and formats. Because we've had great attendance. I see there are 85 people on today. Just ready for some learning. And we're going to share some resources with you about play today that I think you will enjoy and that are just available at OEC. And we're also going to hear from Dr. Grant Alston today. So I'll introduce her in a minute. So mostly I want to make sure I thank the OEC team who put this together, Lorna and company. And I really like it because it's an opportunity for people like Karen and Head Start and Michelle and Early Childhood and others to talk about resources that are available for you all the time that maybe you don't know about to help enhance play and speak to the importance of play. And we have a whole play campaign, which Michaela can provide information or links to in the chat. So we know that play is a work of children. That's, part of the challenge, I think, that we're seeing with young children is so many diagnoses and stresses is that they don't get to move enough in school, they don't get to play enough in school, and we want to get them started off on the right foot. We don't want to push down having kids sit more and do more academic tasks. We want them to learn critical thinking skills and grow their vocabulary through active learning through play. I hope you enjoy the webinar. I'm going to now introduce Dr. Catherine Latoya Grant Alston. She's an entrepreneur. She's worked for been an executive at a Fortune 300 company. She's the CEO of Art Financial Solutions. And so she has a lot of experience in finance, more than 20 years. She's won awards for her work in both finance and technology. And she comes from a background where she says she was raised witnessing poverty's impact, and she's really committed to helping the public in public service and young people with financial literacy. She's on numerous boards where she emphasizes financial education and community growth, and she's from Connecticut. So she's here with us today to share that expertise. So Dr. Grant Alston, thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for that lovely introduction, Commissioner. I am so excited to be here and just share a little bit in regards to the impact that financial literacy and the knowledge that we actually pass on can help us with the future generations. And also just share some tips on things that can be done, especially as we come into the summer and we want to just be engaging, with the children and so forth. So share some ways that we can share some financial literacy with our children, get them ready for the next year, and so forth. So with that said, first and foremost, I always love to pose a question, and I think we would all have the same answer. Is financial literacy critical? And the answer, I do not doubt, is yes. Yes, it is critical. There are various things that happen as you are on the journey of life, as I call it. But the main thing is that money is always going to be a topic. It does not matter how old or wise or young or whatnot, it is always a topic. And so one of the things that I always love to tell people, especially if you are a parent or if you are a guardian of small children, is that you never can be too young to start learning about money, start learning about how to govern it, and start really understanding the impact that it has in our community. One of the things that I say is that how we do one thing is how we do all things. And when I say that, it's kind of sparks, right? So you don't just get to turn off some of the things that you do when you are either in your household or outside of your household. And if you are not talking about finances, you're not talking about money, then you are not passing on that knowledge. But that does not mean that the children are not taking heed to what is not being said, right? So how we do things and simply how we show up, it matters. It matters. So an example of that, just so that everybody can just really think about it, is I know me, right? I mean, no one likes to pay bills. I mean, we love if we're in a position to pay them, right? But I don't think anyone wakes up and says, "Yes, I'm going to pay that bill today." However, what you don't realize is that when you are having the nonverbal reaction, the child is really looking at you. And so if you're not talking about money and you're not passing down information, right? Lessons learned, even if they weren't taught to you, you learned them through life. Understand that the child is still learning. And so when you get a bill in the mail, and it doesn't have to be past due, it's just the bill. You get the bill in the mail and you're like, "Oh, I got to pay this, right? I got to pay this bill," right? That energy, that body language, the child is looking at you and the child is looking at your reaction to the bill. And so you have to understand that although you are not teaching, although you are not saying anything, that child is learning still. And so environmentally, they're learning, they see things around them, they see your actions, they see actions of others, and they also hear what's being said. So it's our obligation to be able to teach our children about financial literacy. And a lot of times, some people think, oh, you have to do a course, or, I don't know where to start, or maybe even some of the shame that we carry. And so I say this: if you are not passing down money knowledge, then you're passing down money trauma. I'll say it again. If you are not passing down money knowledge, then you are passing down money trauma. And traumatic experiences are how we view things and how we correlate them, right, to what's happening in a negative way. And so when that child sees that you've received the bill and you're like, this bill, right? Even though you're gonna pay it, and yes, you may pay it on time. We're just not excited about paying bills. We're not excited about paying taxes, those type of things. The fact that the child is seeing the reaction and there is not a discussion in regards to it, the trauma associated with that is, oh, bills are bad, right? We don't want to pay bills, right? Every time I saw an adult get a bill, they were not happy. And that is what's carried on. And so we have to be sure that we pass down money knowledge. And that knowledge can be things that you've learned, right, through life. We always don't make decisions well, right? Sometimes we have to relearn behavior, and that's okay. But as you're learning and you're getting this information, you want to pass it on. Now, when we start talking about early childhood education, we tend to think, oh, they're too young to understand money. Oh, they're too young to understand what that means. But the reality is, you're never too young to start. Even if you start with simply counting money, right? What's the value of a penny? What's the value of a nickel, a dime, a quarter? And you actually start showing the money. You start sorting, right? The pennies look alike, the nickels look alike, certain things. If you have loose change, one of the things that we would do with our children when they were young is we would have loose change. Every time they would get some change and they would put it in their piggy bank, then we would take the piggy bank and we would roll, right? We would roll. And I know sometimes that you don't necessarily want to sit there and do that, right? But it allowed them to, one, have motor skills at a young age to pick up the penny or pick up the dime, and then to roll it, to count it out, right? To make sure that there were, I want to say 50, I think there were 50 coins or 20 coins in a pack. I don't know how they do it now. But even something as simple as that, we started them with understanding money. And so it's extremely important that we pass that down, because what's unsaid is just as detrimental. And so, what are some of the things that you can do as you are looking right in the summer? Some things that you can do that are free, some things that you can do that may be low cost. I want to talk to you about that. So first and foremost, if you find spare change, I know we used to play this activity where we would take a walk and we would see if we could find any pennies, and we could see if we found any change on the street. And we would do that. And then at the end of the walk, we would determine how much we collected. Now, depending on where you are, right, you want to see if that's something that you can do. Another thing that we would do, and this is, if you so choose to, we would go, and once we found, whatever, the penny, the dime, or something, we would count them. We would count them, and it helped the children count. You want to make sure that the activities are fun. I know that there are a lot of agencies that do financial literacy, and sometimes they will go to the school, or sometimes they'll go into the communities and they'll do the financial literacy. And a lot of times the students or the child may not be engaged because sometimes it's going right over their head. So whatever activity that you have, you want to ensure that you make it age appropriate. So the next thing that I would suggest is, a lot of times we, like I said, we carry shame. We've made mistakes, or we feel like we don't know enough to be able to teach our children. If you are someone who you are you have your household, and you're doing everything for your household, include the child. There's this notion that adulting is adulting, right? But these are also young people. And so they're young humans, and so they can see things, they're processing, and so forth. So include them. When we go to the grocery store, we determine, okay, how much are we going to spend today? And when the little one would put stuff into the cart, hey, is that part of the budget? That may not be part of the budget. Is there a similar snack that maybe can be under the budget? We would do certain things. As they get older, or if you have an older child, another thing you can do is say, okay, well, here is the budget, right? This is your portion of the budget. You're going to be responsible for gathering the snacks. And you can say you have $20 to go and gather the snacks. And it has to be enough snacks to feed the household. It has to be enough snacks to be able to last for the week. And so now the child feels empowered. The child's like, okay, I'm part of the household. I have a responsibility. That's another thing that can be done. Last but not least, talk to the child. Talk to the child. I think that oftentimes we carry so much that we don't realize that everything we do is it's being looked at. And so sometimes having the transparent discussion to say, this is what we have, and these are the things that we need to pay, and this is how we do it. I remember sitting my daughter down, who is the founder of our Kingdom Treasure Kids portion of our business, and sitting her down and saying, okay, right, this is how much we have, and this is how much it costs to do the things. So when you leave the light on, this number goes up. And when that number goes up, we have less amount to do some of the things that you would like to do. And so now, again, giving them responsibility, but then also just giving them knowledge, because that budget discussion stuck with her. It stuck with her. And it also created this sense of wanting to know more, wanting to understand more. And so it is truly for us to, one, start financial literacy early. Take the opportunity to really talk to the child, include them into the household financials. It's okay. It's definitely okay, but more so, find creative ways to ensure that they're getting the knowledge. Because if you do not pass on the money knowledge, I can assure you, you're passing on the money trauma. One of the things that I always say, I got into the financial field because of my upbringing. And so my upbringing was, I was raised by my grandparents, and my mother, unfortunately, on a path of addiction. And so I could see the power of a dollar. That's what I always called it. I called it the power of a dollar. And that power was very different depending on who held the dollar. And so I wanted to understand it. I wanted to understand that how could that $1 make people make different decisions, although it was the same value. And so I learned some things, right, from book knowledge, but then I learned some things from actually looking around in my environment, looking around in my household, looking at other households. And what I found was that there were so many people that did things differently. I had a best friend, every Saturday morning was a trip to the bank for their family. Every single Saturday morning. And even though to this day we have online banking, we can do electronic banking, transfers, and so forth, she still goes to the bank every Saturday morning. And so we have to understand that we are passing down the information, verbal or nonverbal. And that as children, right, we were children, the children that we oversee and so forth, they're going to look and see what we're doing. And so we want to ensure that we share the knowledge, because that knowledge is going to become power for them. The earlier that they learn the information, then, and this is why my daughter started, Kingdom Treasure Kids, because she said, hey, mom, you do a lot of the literacy for the adults, but what if we get the kids earlier so that they don't make the mistakes and they don't have to relearn everything? And I thought it was amazing, right? And of course, as the adult, we're like, oh, well, you don't want them too young because we want to ensure that it doesn't go over their head. But the reality is you never can start too young. And as you start to deposit those seeds start to grow. And once they grow, right, now you have this beautiful harvest. But we have to plant those seeds early. So as you are going through and determining, what am I going to do this summer? How am I going to ensure that I continue to open up just the knowledge bank for my child? I urge you to really, really have financial literacy as part of what you do and make it part of your everyday thing that you do with your family. I mean, even if it's just, okay, we are going to have a picnic. What are some of the things that we need? Okay, right? If you're going to pack sandwiches, then now you're packing a sandwich, right? And you can just say, hey, a loaf of bread costs this amount, cheese costs this amount, right? And it may just be information because children are sponges. It may be information. And don't be afraid to have those hard decisions, those hard discussions, especially when you're making decisions. A lot of times, children just want to understand the why. And as adults, right, we're adulting, we're doing the thing. And so we're just like, I got it, I'm handling it, let me be the adult. But sometimes you will find that actually having the discussion, sitting down, why can't I go to Six Flags or get a Six Flags season pass? Why can't I get those sneakers? Why, the why. Sometimes actually having the discussion, you will truly be surprised at how the child actually understands and now it makes sense. And so I want to truly say that as you look to do some of the activities and you look, for what it can be, ensure that financial literacy all around, but ensure that financial literacy is going to be a part of what you do. There's free websites out there. There's free guides. We have a free financial literacy starter kit that we will be providing, and it has free activities, things that the only thing you'll probably need is maybe an egg carton, a muffin tin, or maybe some pennies, some household things that you already have. You don't have to necessarily go out and get something or buy anything, but those type of activities so that you could fast track your child with financial literacy. The more that you pour into children and give them that knowledge, the better they are when making decisions as they continue to grow, learn, and then become adults, right? The future generation are the children. And so if they know more and they're able to make better decisions early on, then we can find ourselves, especially in better financial positions than maybe we were or our parents were. And so with that, I say continue to learn, continue to pass on that information. And just remember, if you are not passing on money knowledge, then you are passing on money trauma. And we definitely don't want to do that. Thank you.
My, oh my, Dr. Catherine, we say thank you to you. You have dropped a lot of knowledge for all of us. Oh my goodness. And you just speaking about the power of nonverbal and verbal communication and information and trauma and wanting to try to mitigate that trauma by informing of financial literacy as young as possible. So thank you so much for your powerful, influential words. We greatly appreciate you and all that you are doing to help build generations of leaders that are financially literate. Thank you so very much, Dr. Catherine Grant Alston. Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, we are going to continue to receive some helpful, resourceful information. But I first am honored to pass the baton over to teammate Karen Pascal, who is the Connecticut Head Start Collaboration Office Director, who is going to introduce our next item. Karen, to you.
Thanks so much, Lorna. Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be with you here today to introduce our video vignette, The Importance of Play, part of the eClip video series, a fantastic partnership with Eastern Connecticut State University. Research shows that play has an essential role in children's learning. In this eClip, Dr. Jeffrey Trawick-Smith discusses the importance of play and advises early childhood professionals to look at several elements of children's play, including engagement in make-believe play, social interaction during play, and play complexity. We know that teachers who enhance children's play can help promote children's development in a variety of domains. Please enjoy the video.
Play is an activity that young children do every day. And we all know that it's important. But did you know that research shows that play is actually central to young children's learning? What can you do to help children get the most learning from their play? When you look at play, when you watch children play, it's pretty obvious that it's a really enjoyable, fun activity for children. Probably is what makes childhood so enjoyable. What is not as obvious, maybe, is how important play is for children's development. Research has found that play helps children to think creatively. They learn all kinds of different problem-solving strategies when they play. Play has been linked to language development, and certainly it leads to positive social skills. One of the more important things that research shows is that play is related to reading and learning to write. One way that play helps children in literacy areas is that it's very symbolic. For example, when they're using a toy telephone to represent a real phone, they're using a symbol. That's not unlike looking at a word and seeing that it represents something that's not present or something in real life. One element of play that I think is important to observe in children is pretend or make-believe. One thing you want to watch for as you're watching children play is, do they engage in make-believe? Do they take on the roles of pretend characters or other people in their lives? Do they use objects in make-believe ways? Do they invent imaginative play situations to play out with their peers? There are a variety of ways that adults can kind of enhance this kind of pretend. One really enjoyable way to do this is simply to play along with children, to actually take a make-believe role, play parallel or with children, to make play suggestions, to ask questions, to kind of encourage this kind of role play.
I know how much it's going to cost to get my car fixed, Jane.
A second element that I think is important for adults to look at when they're observing children's play is social interaction. And related to that, verbalization, using language as you're interacting with your peers.
I need another long one. There is no more long one.
You want to see a lot of language in this kind of play setting.
Maybe we can do this. No. No. This is a long one.
Take a role, try to facilitate more language by asking questions, trying to facilitate some peer interaction. A third element of play that I think is important for adults to look for is what's sometimes been called play complexity. As children get a little bit older into the preschool years, what you like to see is a greater variety of enactments as they're carrying out a role. If children aren't playing that kind of complex play, if they're still quite simple and repetitive in their make-believe or in other kinds of play that they engage in, it might be time for an adult to move in and facilitate.
Sounds like you're playing house. Are you playing house?
Again, through question asking, maybe suggesting some new enactments to perform, will help the play to become more complex.
What's this baby's name?
One thing I'd like to be sure to caution about is that playing with children is great fun, and so all of these strategies to facilitate play will be very enjoyable for the adult as well as the child. The thing we have to be careful about, though, is not to stay too long, to overstay our welcome, but to be sure that after a period of enriching children's play, we get out of the play center to allow them to play on their own. We need to be very respectful of children's play activities. When you enhance children's play in these ways, when you facilitate their pretend play, the complexity of their play, social interaction. Not only are you enhancing their play, but this leads directly to overall advancement in children's development. Play is a wonderful tool for parents and teachers to use, a wonderful vehicle for promoting larger areas of development.
Okay. 52.
52.
What do you need to
Well, hopefully we were able to absorb additional helpful information regarding the importance of play. We are just so thankful for the wonderful work that Eastern Connecticut State University is doing in regard to that. And let us continue on learning more helpful resources and information. And it is my honor now to introduce Dr. Michelle Levy, who is an education consultant at the Office of Early Childhood, but she wears many hats and does many things. She also is very instrumental in our Quality Improvement Division at the Office of Early Childhood. And we now are honored to hear from her as she's going to share about OEC's Play campaign. Passing it over to you, Dr. Levy.
Thank you so much, Lorna. I wanted to share before I start the presentation, Dr. Grant Alston talked about financial literacy, and we're moving on to talk a little about play and how play provides an opportunity for learning and development and summer fun that doesn't take a lot of money. And her talk really made me think and reflect on how that opportunity is also that chance to talk to kids about how fun and engaging activities don't have to take a lot of money. So it's another opportunity to reinforce that financial literacy. And in the video, I don't know if folks caught it, but I overheard the teacher saying to the child, how much is that going to cost? So within those play opportunities, thinking about how we can also promote that financial literacy for children through play and through the scenarios that are acted out. So really enriching stuff, and I'm hoping that you will appreciate I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so now I'm going to share some of the play resources, OEC's new campaign about Let's Play. And before I dive into all of the new resources, I want to share a little bit of background. You heard a bit on the video about play, and I'm going to share a little more. So, basics about play. What is play? The word gets used so frequently, and that video really drew out a lot of aspects of play. And I wanted to share this quote. Dr. Stuart Brown from the nonprofit organization, the National Institute for Play, said, "Play is a state of mind that one has when absorbed in an activity that provides enjoyment and a suspension of the sense of time. Play is self-motivated, so you want to do it again and again." So there happen to be over 10 dictionary recognized meanings for the word play, depending on how it's used. And we're not going to define all of those, but I thought that this quote, and then also some of the ways that the American Academy of Pediatrics describes play, will help just get us thinking about really what is play? What does it involve? So the American Academy of Pediatrics uses the following ideas when they describe play. They talk about it as being self-motivated, involving active engagement, joyful discovery, being something that's voluntary, might not have any specific goals. Teachers or providers might have some goals for children's learning, but it's not always evident to the kids, right? They're engaged and we're talking to them about a lot of different things. It's fun. There's some spontaneity. to what's happening. So why play? And I think the video got to a lot of this as well. One thing that I don't think was mentioned in the video is that the United Nations has declared that play is a right of all young children. In the Convention on the Rights of the Child, in Article 31, they explicitly state that, and that the exact language is here on the slide. I won't read that all out. But the other part of it is it builds brains. Play is good for everyone. And I'm going to share here the first resource that I'm going to highlight a little bit. So this is the play poster. It's part of the materials that OEC is making available. You can't see each of this probably really well because it's relatively small. Maybe you can capture it. But each of these brains that are on this page show how different systems and parts of the brain are activated. It'll show how the sensory system is activated when kids are engaged in spatial processing. A different part of the brain is activated. Social connections, problem solving, creativity, resilience, all those pieces mentioned in the video and mentioned here are lighting up and really reinforcing different parts of the brain. So this is one of our materials. I also did want to make a special note, and I think this was referenced in the video, how play can really enhance learning across all domains. And there's a lot of research showing how it has an impact on executive function. Things such as persisting with tasks, being flexible in the way that kids think, inhibitory control, so being able to manage impulses, self-regulation, and there's evidence of the benefits of play on mental health. That applies to children and adults. Play is powerful. And as was referenced in the video, adults play an important role in play. This slide has excerpts from both the informational flyer and the educator pamphlet that are a part of the OEC's resources on play. Both of these excerpts talk about how adults can create spaces and provide materials that support different types of play, how they can join in play with children, facilitate or support play. And I wanted to touch upon adults supporting and facilitating play without directly leading it. Again, the video had a lot of great information about backing off, letting kids take the lead. And if we think back to the American Academy of Pediatrics description, we want play to be joyful, child-led, full of discovery, fun, and spontaneity. But that doesn't mean adults should always just sit back and watch. Adults provide materials, they set the setting, they provide prompts, they help children expand on their ideas and learn new information or skills through their play. So you'll see throughout the OEC Let's Play materials that the adult's role is really stressed and supported. So this is a list of everything that is included in our Let's Play campaign. Mentioned the poster, showed that, highlighted some pieces from the informational flyer and the educator pamphlet. And now I'm going to also spend a little time just showing you what's included on the handouts and the family flyer. I included the URL here. All these materials can be found on the OEC website. The OEC is working out the details for actually ordering materials so that there will be hard copies. And we're working on how we're going to distribute those to programs across the state. So more to come. but know that they are on our website and we're working on getting them out to folks in the field. So the handouts, there are 5 different handouts. Each of these handouts discusses a different type of play. There are many different ways that people talk about types of play and categorize it. We decided to really focus on what seemed meaningful to ECE, early childhood program providers, thinking about how they support play in classrooms or homes, whatever setting they're in. So we thought about construction play, motor play, sensory play, and social play. And I'm going to highlight one of the flyers so you can see how they're kind of set up. But we touch upon all these types of play with the poster. So this is the top part of the construction play handout. On the upper right-hand side is a description about that type of play. To the top left, you'll see information about how this type of play benefits children. In general, broad guidance about adults supporting that type of play. In this example with construction play, it's described as including creating, building, or making things with art materials, blocks. It mentions how construction play supports planning, persistence, and problem solving, and supports early mathematical concepts such as space and size, or scientific concepts such as physical features of different materials. It mentions providing materials that promote creativity and building, prompting new ideas, or planning out a new creation. At the bottom of each poster, there are more specific suggestions about supporting young children in this type of play, looking at infants, toddlers, and preschoolers. The guidance focuses first on the adult's role, and then provides some ideas about where, when, what might be involved in this type of play. The structure of the poster is really intended, not the poster, the handout. The structure was intended to provide information that would be relevant for adults to help plan play-based learning opportunities. But it can also guide adults during those teachable moments when a child is playing on their own and they're initiating everything, and the adults have that opportunity to just lean into that teachable moment. Enriching, engaging play is good for children. And as you see the ideas for play and ponder adults' roles, I think you'll see that fun and learning don't have to cost a lot of money. Construction play can involve using blocks, can be done with empty boxes, cans, sand, sticks. You can provide ideas and suggestions and follow where kids take you. When you're silly and creative, it can spark them to come up with their own ideas and expand. Finally, there's a flyer intentionally tailored towards families. Oops. It provides information about the value of play. This can be helpful as providers work to infuse more play and connect with families about the value of play, why it matters, and the skills that it promotes. This is also on the family flyer, talking about play and its relationship to brain development. Play is good for everyone. Time enjoying each other's company, letting loose a bit, finding joy and curiosity supports good mental health, physical health, strong relationships, and children's brains. So when you're looking for summer fun, remember, it doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. And you can get back to the basics of play. It offers a wealth of opportunity and fun. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Levy. Thank you, Michelle, for giving such wonderful information about the Play campaign. And tied it so well to our keynote speaker and the wonderful information shared there, and the value of being able to play and have fun and not having to go broke in the meantime. So thank you so, so, so very much. And with that, we are going to continue bringing all of this together. Again, the value of playing, the value of financial literacy. Let's have some more conversation about that. And so now it is my honor to introduce the facilitator for our panel discussion, that being Annie Weinig, who is Senior Project Coordinator at Child Health and Development Institute. Going to allow Annie to share more of what she does at CHDI, which many of us are familiar with, but just want to thank you so very much for sharing your time with us, your expertise with us, and helping to govern a very fruitful conversation. Thank you so much, and passing it over to you, Annie.
Thank you, Lorna, for that introduction. And hello, everyone. It's lovely to be here this afternoon. As Lorna mentioned, my name is Annie, and I work at the Child Health and Development Institute. Most of my work pertains to early childhood, but prior to being at CHDI, I actually worked primarily in parental mental health and did a lot of parenting advocacy training as well. So I'm really excited to be here and touching base on this really important topic. And it is my pleasure and great honor to welcome our panelists for today. So we are fortunate enough to have representatives here from Sparkler Learning, from the Office of Early Childhood Parent Cabinet, and then from the Office of Early Childhood Education Consulting as well, to talk about the importance of play and promoting well-being as well, especially during these summer months. So welcome to Julia, Tiffany, and Michelle. Thank you for being here. Just to get us started, I was hoping that each of you could take a moment and tell us a little bit about yourself. I know we've heard from you already, Michelle, but if you'd like to share maybe a little bit about the role you play in supporting children's learning and development. And I was thinking maybe we'd start with Julia and then move to Tiffany and then Michelle, if that sounds good. So Julia, take it away whenever you're ready.
Hello, it's nice to see you and thanks for having me. I lead Sparkler Learning, which is pretty much entirely focused on play. And Annie, is this a good time to share a couple of slides just grounding us in Sparkler and play so we know what we're talking about?
Sure thing, please do.
All right, I'm going to attempt to share my screen. Okay, so Sparkler is a mobile tool for families in the state of Connecticut who have kids from starting in prenatal years, prenatal through age 5. And it's designed to help families learn through play with their children. So within Sparkler, we have lots of activities. Each activity has a primary skill and a secondary skill that it supports. It's a whole big list of our skills, but basically we have 4 domains of learning: heart, mind, body, and words. And so the idea is, as you've heard a lot today about the importance of play and the importance for children's brain development and just development overall. And so we just have a ton of activities, like, I don't know, 2,500 activities or so available in many languages that help families sort of spark those ideas so that they can play together with their children. And going back to the keynote speaker's point, a lot of our activities are free. You know, you can just do them with no materials at all. With stuff that you have around home, because we don't want there to be any impediments for play. We want it to be natural and something that people can do anytime, anywhere. So these are a few screenshots of activities, but families will see different activities based on the age of their child, and they can click in and try it. If they choose to press "we did it," you can then say as a parent whether you can keep track of all you accomplished together with your child. You can earn points for playing, but essentially it's a way to find things to do with your child and try them. A couple of fun things that we're doing right now that I think are relevant to this conversation today are: one, in a few weeks we're launching, I think it's our 4th season of our summer learning program called Camp Sparkler. And so there'll be 8 weeks of play-based learning activities that we're putting out for families in the state. The themes are listed over on the right side of this, but each week there'll be a sort of introduction to the theme. They're all social and emotional themes. And then we'll provide a series of activities. I think it's 5 activities and a song for parents to play with babies, and then a separate set related for parents to play with toddlers, and then for preschoolers and their families. So we're very excited about that. And it's been amazing in past seasons to see how families engage in the summer months using this set of resources. And then the other thing that I'm super excited about is we are about to launch this campaign focused on learning through play and growing through play. It's primarily focused on healthcare providers. So we're working with doctors' offices and other healthcare providers to get these materials out to families, but it's really focused on play. So we have the list of resources we're providing here are on the right, and I'll show you a few pictures of what is going to be included here. But we've got big posters and decals, and then booklets and videos. And all of this will be available in the next few weeks, we're working with different offices. So if anybody wants to learn more about it, I'm happy to share. But it's all sort of geared at the same thing that all of the other speakers today have been talking about. Like, how can we make it easy and approachable and fun to do something that we all know is so critical for children's early learning and development. So these posters have simple activities that people can do while they're waiting to see their doctor for a well-child visit that you could do with nothing within the context of the doctor's office or anywhere really. Parents can choose to play along within their app, or they can obviously just do these activities without having the app. And then we've got these little booklets. There's a version for parents with young babies, which is really a high contrast, like accordion that people can use to during tummy time or other times together to support play and learning. And then there's other activities that families can find by scanning to find within their app. And then there's also an activity book that parents with older children through age 5 can use that has different sort of tiers. Like you can play parent and child together. Older children might be able to do some of the activities on the right side of the pages by themselves. And we're super, super excited to be getting this out into the world to really promote play and connection in the state of Connecticut. And then I have other slides which are just showing how families and programs across the state have already been using Sparkler to promote play. We've been seeing a lot of programs incorporating our play activities into their community events or school events, play groups. These are real adorable people from the state of Connecticut playing and learning. We've seen a lot of programs incorporating book stories and using those to help spark play and creating aligned activities that they can suggest to families along with those books. This is more sort of using activities from Sparkler to promote play at community events. Some programs have gotten really creative and have done things like creating boxes full of activities. The sky's the limit. And I'm not going to play this song for you, but I'm happy to later if people want a song about play. So there's a lot there, and I'm just excited to share it. So I'll be quiet. I want to hear from everybody else, but that's what Sparkler is all about, play.
That is fabulous, Julia. Thank you so much for that introduction. And to Sparkler, what incredible resources available to families in Connecticut. Unbelievable. So thank you. Tiffany, you want to get started?
Yes, and I just want to say I absolutely love Sparkler, and I love the swag that you guys had at your table. Just real quickly, the little bubbles on the string. I was at, I believe it was either, I think it was Groton, Child First, their family event resource fair that they have, and I just made my way around the table and I grabbed one of the bubble things, and I cannot even tell you how many times I work in a public school, how many times those bubbles helped me with transitioning from one place to the other. And the kids thought it was very, very cool. So thank you for everything that you guys do. And I just love all the tools and the resources that are available there that, can make it a lot of fun. I think sometimes parents, they just think that things have to be, too overcomplicated, and the simplicity of, like you said, playing with something like an egg crate or whatnot. So anyhow, before I go any further, I am Tiffany Elaine. I live in Brooklyn, Connecticut. That's Connecticut, not New York. I'm a parent cabinet member for Region 3. I have 2 children. One is 13, one is 16 and a half. My journey began first as a parent with 2 children who received BRCA3. And my son further on went to need a 504 for special education. And I do work in the public schools as a paraprofessional. So I do a lot of working with children in the preschool environment. So our AM and our PM, we're lucky enough to have school readiness. And I do a lot of volunteer work in the community. And one of the things that is just very important to me is just empowering families, giving parents and caregivers, making them realize the importance of their voice and sharing their story and connecting them, empowering, and just kind of, giving them, what it is they need, and listening to their stories and kind of trying to connect all the dots for them, because, it's amazing how much a parent can connect with another parent in terms of relatability. People seem to trust more. And when I'm in the community, if I'm at my children's, soccer practices, or we're at theater or whatever, I always happen to come across a family, just somebody that is either struggling or is looking for something. And I try to take everything that I learn every day from, the kids in the community and kind of wrap it together to kind of help people and give them, those tools for success. So I do like to talk a lot. So my keynotes here were advocate, mentor, working with families, connecting, empowering, making them understand the importance of their voice. And I think I answered everything plus some.
Totally. You hit all those marks. Thank you, Tiffany. That's amazing. And you're so right about making sure that families know that they are the experts when it comes to their children. It's unbelievably important. So thank you so much for the work that you do. Michelle, you want to take a moment and introduce yourself again? Any other details you want to add?
Sure. Oh, hello, add a little. My name's Michelle Levy, as Dr. Thomas Farquharson introduced me already. But I'm Michelle Levy, and I work in both the early care and education and the quality improvement sides of OEC. I support the work at OEC that's focused on standards, curriculum, and assessment. So that's all about supporting young children's learning and development. The Connecticut Early Learning and Development Standards, or the CTLs as we often call them in shorthand, include learning progressions that describe what we want young children to know and be able to do from birth up to 5 years of age. And it's across all domains of learning. So expanded, it touches upon all the domains that Julia referenced in relationship to Sparkler, but it goes into mathematics, early literacy and language, social emotional learning, cognition. And we also provide guidance around what the adults can do to support that learning across settings, thinking about curriculum, but also thinking about learning in home environments, how different settings and sectors can support that learning. We provide some guidance and tools also about thinking about observing and documenting learning as well. So that's the assessment piece. So I'm really excited to be here. Play is such an important part of that, how adults support learning and development. And I'm really excited to see an increased emphasis on play, an increased understanding of the value and importance of it, both from the learning and development perspective, but also from the mental health perspective about young children and adults, engagement and enthusiasm and joy, and what important piece that is.
That is awesome. Thank you, Michelle. And you're absolutely right. I mean, and your overview earlier too. I mean, I think this is a lot of the context that we need in order to dive into this conversation. So thank you so much for sharing those resources as well. I wanted to start by we've been talking a lot today about the importance of play and how it is so vital to children's healthy growth and learning, developmentally, socially, emotionally. And given that we want to support children having quality, playful experiences as often as possible, I was wondering if each of you could speak a bit to the difference between quality of time in play versus the quantity of time playing, and then maybe how we can navigate that balance, right? Find that balance between those things. Um, Anyone is welcome to start if someone wants to be brave and get us going, or I can volunteer someone. So feel free.
I'll just say I think it's a lot easier to have higher quality and higher quantity if you kind of redefine play and include a lot more than you might ordinarily include under the heading play, right? So if you include playful interactions in the grocery store when you're doing errands with your child, or just I don't know, my son and I for a long time have counted dogs on the way to school. Like there's all of these things that we can do as parents that are not just getting down on the floor with blocks, which is also amazing, but playing every day while we're out and about just by talking and focusing on our children. I think Michelle can probably cite the research off the top of her head about the amount of time required in play, but it's very little, like, right? Just a small amount of play goes a long way. But I think if you just sort of redefine what play is in your mind, you can be playing almost every moment you're together with your child and really have an incredibly big impact on your child's early learning and development.
I think you did a great job with that, Julia. Definitely. I feel like, so when you're saying quality versus quantity, like there's often I will talk to parents at like the pickup line or whatever, and I'll ask how their weekend was. And, I like to ask a lot of open-ended questions just to get information. And it kind of irritates me a little bit when I ask parents and they're like, oh, well, they played for 3 hours outside the other day. And I'm like, oh, really? I'm like, where were they? Oh, they had their tablet. So, in the slides, it did say, the importance of interactive and engagement and the social connection and that social piece. And I think sometimes the fact that you laid out the definitions of play was wonderful, because I think sometimes people don't understand, their child playing on an iPad is not, there are educational programs, apps, I'm not saying that there's not technology that's good for learning and stuff, but I think sometimes parents will consider YouTube playing. So again, depending on what it is or whatever. So I think that obviously the quality would be more of the one-to-one, or, like the connection, and as opposed to, like, you could have a child that played outside on their tablet for 3 hours, or someone who played with a peer for 3 minutes. And to me, the quality is the one who played with the peer, not the one that was just outside by themselves or whatnot. So I think a lot of that has to do with the social connection and the engagement, and the actual another human or animal that's involved with that type of interaction. But I think you guys did a really good job. I love the charts too. Even I took so many notes just about the different impacts that it has on the brain. I thought that was really, really interesting. And, like you said, there's a trip to the grocery store could be, a math lesson, or even just talking about things. Well, what color is it, and the whys, and opening those questions. So I think, again, it all has to do with the interaction.
I think you guys both covered such important ideas that, it's not one or the other, right? I think they're both important, the quality of the play as well as the quantity. But it doesn't just happen at like a certain time. It's not like playtime. Play can be infused throughout. But I think it also is important for kids to have some extended time where they can explore themes and extend play over days. I think sometimes kids are limited in their ability to stick with something and stay with it because of the structures or routine, right? Structures and routine are really important. And we want families to be able to have the routine and do the things they need to do. They have to get dinner on the table. They might have to go to work. They have to go to the grocery store. Um, so both making those opportunities for engaging in playful interactions, but then also making sure kids have time to just engage in extended periods of play where they're leading things, thinking about the materials they have for that play. Are they open-ended? Are they things that kids can kind of explore and be creative with, or are they really kind of those, there are toys that set kids up to do the same thing. So, and I'm not saying there's not a place for them, but an action figure that's from a television show that they watch and they reenact that the same scenario that they've watched is really a different type of play than creating a character and exploring a role of a community, you know, somebody in the community, a gardener or a grocer, right? So those are really different types of play. So I think it's really important to think about the materials and prompts and what the child's action and what they're really getting out of it. So I think that those are just important things and thinking about what they're doing when they aren't playing. Is it really structured and formal, or is it an engaging routine that they're part of what's happening in the routine of the house or the transition? So
Absolutely. These are all such great points. Something that I'm loving that I'm hearing coming out of this is the idea that play can kind of happen anywhere at any time. And then also this idea that, like with all sorts of things, there are all different kinds of play, and there are maybe some, like the ones that you were just describing, Michelle, that we can give real space for and give not necessarily priority, but give real time for, so that kids have the time to be creative, think something all the way through, see it through to the end. I think that's really fabulous and a helpful frame for us as we think about play moving forward. And speaking of that, these sort of balancing of things, we also know that, and Dr. Latoya Grant Alston really spoke to this today, there's a really strong association, right, between financial concerns and feelings of stress, especially for our caregivers, for our families, and especially during the summer, right? This is a time where we start navigating a lot of those things for the coming year. And so as we're thinking about promoting mental health and well-being and wellness, and also minimizing financial stressors for families and providers, I'm wondering if all three of you could maybe give us some examples of just some fun, enriching, and low-cost activities for children. I know that we've touched on a few of them today, but any additional ones that you might want to add would be greatly appreciated. And again, anyone is welcome to get the ball rolling.
I'll start off this time. That's okay. So I think about just, you know, a trip anywhere to on a nature walk or in the park, those opportunities to just explore, and you can make them into an adventure, right? You could take on a role. You could pretend you're a scientist looking for specimens. You could pretend that you're looking for a long extinct animal and make up what that animal might look like. You could take notes as you're walking, or, you know, with younger children, you might be singing silly songs about everything you see, or making up rhymes, or touching and talking about the texture of different things that you see. In the park or on a nature walk, or even just walking around the block if there's not a you know, a safe park nearby that you can get to. You can take those same ideas elsewhere and, you know, or enhance them, or so those are some ideas.
And I had a lot of what Julia had. I had, you know, your local and state parks, picnics, hikes, nature, swimming, community center events. Also, the library a lot of times will offer free activities for young children during summer for, like, you know, like for like a reading hour, or they may have, some type of a special series of books or whatnot. But one thing for sure that you guys talked about earlier is just crafting out of pieces of nature, or crafting out of, stuff from the Sparkler resource. I think that's really a really fun thing for kids to do, and also kind of have that, create those memories, and very, very low cost. And I think when children are proud of themselves, it also kind of opens up that creativity element with, them liking art and creation and blocks and building and all those skills. But I feel like you guys hit a lot of them already in the previous discussion. And I'm going to let you go now, talk now, Julia.
Well, we've talked a lot about this, but as you've been talking, I've been swiping through Sparkler looking for activities that have none as the materials. And there's a lot of them, so I'm not going to read them out to you. You can move like an animal. You can go on an adventure together and look for a letter, or look for a color, or numbers, or there's a million things you can do. And so I would say download the Sparkler app and just look for the activities that have none as the materials, or you can search using the search tool. The other thing I wanted to mention is that, at least now I'm putting on my mom hat, in my family, the cardboard boxes we get from Amazon never lose their appeal. I don't know. We paint them, we cut them, we climb in them. And there was I don't know if you've read it, but there's this great children's book called Not a Box by Antoinette Portis, who we interviewed on our podcast, Little Kids, Big Hearts, somewhat recently. And it's all about imagination and turning cardboard boxes really into anything in the world. And it's a great book for kids because I think it sort of opens up those questions, that's not a box, it's anything. And she's also an amazing creative force in children's literature. So I would say listen to that, read the book to your kids, and then get a box and play with it on a rainy day, because there's a lot that you can do. And there's a lot of boxes out there that are waiting to be played with.
I have to say that my notes for some ideas to share mentions cardboard boxes twice. Once, with a past experience, but I also just wanted to add, following your child's lead can be such an valuable part of it, right? You might not be able to take all of their ideas to fruition, but if your child really wants to do something and you don't have the money for it, it's an opportunity to talk about that financial literacy, but take that interest. They want to go to an amusement park, a theme park, and that's not in the budget. Use those cardboard boxes to make a roller coaster ride, or a car that they can do, or use the boxes to make it for the stuffed animals, right? So following their lead and their interests can be really powerful as well.
These are fabulous suggestions. I love this. And another thing what I really value about all these suggestions, in addition to the fact that obviously they are either low or no cost at all, is the fact that so many of them, involve adults being really playful. And as Michelle just said, sort of allowing children to lead us and tell us where we're going and what we're doing. But also the fact that so many of these can be done outside, because at least we live in New England and there's only so much of the year where it's really nice to be outside. So these are fabulous suggestions. I also wanted to note, so Julia had just mentioned putting on her mom hat for a second. So I'm gonna switch gears a tiny bit and ask you all, if you're willing, to sort of think back to when you were a child, and if there is maybe a memory that comes to mind for you that sort of demonstrates how you personally engaged in play, and play that was memorable or important for you as a child. Would you be willing to share one of those memories with us? And if anyone would like to be brave and get the ball rolling, feel free.
So one thing that I remember, and I'm aging myself a little bit, is I can remember playing outside until the street lights came on, coming home filthy. And it was okay, because it meant that we had a good time, whether we were riding our bikes, whether we were building forts or doing cartwheels. I think the thing that really comes to my mind is just that connection, and the absence of the social media, and we didn't even have watches on back then. You know what I'm saying? It was just come when the street lights came on. So I think that that's one thing that really, really sticks, is just a lot of those memories that were built on in just natural, like we didn't plan what we were going to do, we just did it. And just I just think, even building a fort, we worked as a team, and we used problem solving, and all those skills that we didn't even realize. So I think my biggest thing is, again, being able to play outside until the street lights, being able to ride our bikes without having to worry about some of the things that we do now. So
I will have to say my memory was that I thought of was much the same of being outside with the kids in the neighborhood, and the opportunity for us we often played games. There were older children, so there were mixed ages of kids engaging together. We made up our own rules. We talked about the rules, we figured them out together, then we set the path for the play, and we followed through. We had to negotiate if there was conflict. So all of those things were a part of that opportunity. And I know for families today, communities interact differently, and many families don't feel safe just letting their kids roam, right? Or they don't have a neighborhood where they can just kind of go between houses. You might not have people really near you with children, close enough to your child's age to do that. But you can set up play dates and opportunities for kids to come together, and then encourage and allow that type of play where they can set their own rules and explore and get a little dirty, or maybe get in an argument now and then and figure it out. And of course, you want to monitor those things and make sure everyone's safe. But thinking about ways you can draw some of that similar experience can be really helpful.
Okay. I think I spent a lot of hours as a child, like doing arts and crafts with my sister on the kitchen table. So that was, most of what I did day to day. I think summer specific, when I was a little kid, we used to go to the very small mountains in Pennsylvania. And there, I think it wasn't during early childhood, like 0 to 5. I don't think I was out and about by myself, but I remember when I was 7, I got a bike and I was allowed to just ride it to the lake, and there was a little playground and I got to play with my friends, and that was really meaningful. Or there were, we'd go pick blueberries. I don't know, like we were outside a lot, just hanging out. I think during this early childhood age group that we're talking about, then, at least when I was a child, and now, you're not going to just like let them roam in the wilderness because they're very young. Maybe some people would, but I think just sort of having free time and getting to explore, and just sit around and read or sit around and do arts and crafts was sort of how I played as a kid.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing these memories. It's very touching to hear. And something again that's coming up for me is about these sort of connections that we build during play, right? And in some cases, a lot of cases, it's with kids of all different ages, which is so valuable to be interacting with folks who are a little different from you, and and negotiating and finding out your way through conflict. And obviously with this much younger age group that we're talking about today, also just that learning that happens when you're in community, or the learning that happens with your sibling or with your peers or whatever it is so valuable. So thank you for sharing that with us. I'm now going to take us back to the present, I promise, for this final question. So knowing what you now know as adults in your work, what advice would you like to give perhaps to your younger self, perhaps to other caregivers or providers on this call, whatever the case may be? What sort of advice would you like to give about the value of play? And this is just your opportunity, really, to give us some final words of wisdom that you'd like to share as we close out today's webinar. So I feel terrible asking a particular person to go first, so I'm going to once again let you all decide who wants to go first.
Okay. Okay. Um, so when I think back to my younger self, I don't think like back to my young self, but as in my 30s and 40s, I'm definitely dating myself here. Um, I think I would look back and encourage myself or encourage others to engage in play as adults and engage with kids in play. Um, I think it's just good for everyone. It's good for the social interaction, the connection. It's good for the adults. It's a chance to escape kind of that suspension of that sense of time. Even though, as I know, as parents, you still have to really pay attention to the time and it's time for dinner and all that, right? You can't just always let go, but find those moments where you can let go and really be engaged in that play and be silly, be creative. Um, do it for yourself, do it for your child. I wish I did more of that instead of worrying so much about the schedule and the routine, even though that's important and that provides structure for kids and helps them. Um, trying to be a little flexible and get out of that adult role that you feel that I have to be serious all the time.
I was just going to say, my advice is that anyone can do it. It's not a lot of things in parenting are big surprises, and you're like, where's the guidebook for this? I don't know what I'm doing. Pretty much everybody played as a child, as you just highlighted in your last question, Annie, and it's within all of our power as parents to play. And so I know that there's been a lot of work to try to teach parents to read with their child from the earliest days. And I think the same is true with play. You can play from even before they're born, you can start playing. And I think that it's never too early, it's never too late to just start and give it a try.
I love what both of you said. I'm just going to add one more thing is like, be you, enjoy, take time to smell the flowers, enjoy the sunshine, just really be able to just appreciate things that are free.
These are such good suggestions. Thank you so much for these insights. I am grateful to Julia, Michelle, Tiffany. Thank you so much for being here today and sharing your wisdom with us and also being a little playful. We're very grateful and it's very on brand for today. I don't know about all of you, but this conversation has made me want to run outside and play as soon as possible. So I know we're a little ahead, but I'm going to pass it back to you, Lorna, if that sounds okay, to close us out. So thank you, our panelists, again for being here. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And we're right on time. And I first want to thank you, Annie, for helping to govern a wonderful conversation. And Julia, Michelle, and Tiffany, you all are wonderful. You have not only dropped knowledge, but you've done it in such an engaging way. Yes, like Annie, I want to go outside and play as well. So thank you, thank you, thank you for all that you have shared. And just want to do a collective round of thank yous to all of our webinar participants. First, starting with Diana Reyes, thank you so very much for giving instructions on how to access interpretation. And we certainly thank our teammates from NWI, Rhonda and Paola. Thank you so very much for your wonderful support and contributions. Of course, to our commissioner, Beth Bai, thank you so much for a warm and engaging welcome to all of us. And we certainly are so grateful to our wonderful keynote speaker, Dr. Catherine Latoya Grant Alston. Boy, you talk about knowledge that you dropped and just reminding us of the power of transferring that knowledge through the generations as it comes to financial literacy. Thank you so much for your powerful words and all that you are doing. We greatly appreciate you. We certainly also thank our teammate Karen Pascal. Thank you for introducing the wonderful video put on by Eastern Connecticut State University, reminding us of the importance of play and how we're helping those brains to grow and develop. And of course, to Dr. Michelle Levy for continuing in that way, talking about OEC's Play campaign. And you certainly have access to that on our website. So thank you so much, Michelle, for your support and reminding all of us of that important resource. And again, to our phenomenal panelists and facilitator, Annie, Michelle, Julia, Tiffany, you all are wonderful. Thank you so very much. And I just want to say, with all that you've shared, you've reminded us of the importance of play at any age range. All of us can play. As they say, you don't stop playing because you get old. You get old because you stop playing. So let us all continue to engage in that regard. Certainly want to continue with the thanks and appreciation to our wonderful teammates behind the scenes. Thank you so much, Eloisa Melendez, for managing all things Zoom as it relates to this webinar. Thank you so very much. Team O'Donnell, thank you for your wonderful support. And UConn School of Social Work Innovations Institute, thank you for all that you do with respect to our survey. Hint, hint, hint survey. As Commissioner Bai introduced at the top of the webinar, we want to receive your feedback so we know what to do, continue doing, and what maybe to do differently as we move forward. We are taking a pause for the summer months, July and August, but we plan to come back again in September, and we want to incorporate your thoughts and feedback in doing so. At the conclusion of this webinar, you will receive a link to complete the survey. Please do so. We greatly appreciate you. But how dare I ask you to do something without thanking you? I certainly want to thank all of you who are viewing this webinar live or maybe viewing it a recording of it. We thank you so much for sharing your time, your energy, your skill sets, your expertise with us. As we've talked about, the importance of play is so very important for our children, and it's something that we can do at little to no cost at all. Please remember to take advantage of every opportunity to play, not only for the children, but for the adults as well. Until we meet again, thank you so much for your time, your energy. We greatly appreciate you and look forward to seeing you again in the fall. Take care, be well.
Thank you so much. I love watching you.
Oh, you are a blessing, and we are thankful to you and thankful to all of you who are viewing. Take care, all. Be well.